All right, welcome in everyone. Sorry for the little bit of delay. Of course, it wouldn't be a Friday or a webinar without some technical difficulties. Um, so unfortunately, that's what we were running into. We're waiting on one more of our speakers to get in, and then we will definitely get rolling. Um, mm, 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 mm. But I hope everyone is having a great Friday so far. Mm, mm,
So
mm,
far, so
mm.
good.
That's good. That's good.
How's the weather? Because I know they're calling for like I guess some rain in some of the parts, but it's pretty here.
It's been overcast over here, and then the sun's kind of peeking through the clouds, so not too crazy. I haven't seen any rain today, but I did earlier this morning.
Same, same. I'm hoping that it's a pretty weekend.
Yeah. Okay, well, Cam, I think we should probably just go ahead and get going. And then when Ayana joins, we'll get her in here and she can start answering questions as well. But I think we should probably just get started.
Do you want to try to call her while I get started? Maybe see if she
Sure.
needs help. Okay. All right. So, like I said, first, I'm just thankful for everyone that was able to make it today. And welcome to our back to school youth webinar. I'm definitely glad you guys were able to be here. And this is a space, created for the youth to be able to share their voice, their experiences, and any ideas they may have heading into the new school year of 2025. Of course, we all know going to back to school can bring a mix of feelings of excitement, stress, maybe even a little bit of pressure, but it's also a chance for fresh starts, new goals, and building stronger support for each other. So today we're going to talk about some real topics that matter, such as mental health, bullying, peer pressure, and ways to handle stress. Most importantly, this is about the youth, right? We want to hear your thoughts, your stories, and your advice because your voices have the most power to make schools and communities stronger. There are no wrong answers here. Everything you share is valuable, and it may even help someone else who's listening or going through the same thing. And that's another thing we do, share these webinars on our website, in our newsletter. So it's not just this space. So it'll definitely reach a broader audience as well. But before we dive in, I do just want to give a huge shout out to the youth that we will have speaking today. Very thankful for you guys. Two amazing young leaders who are brave enough to share their voices and perspectives. Just know, like I said, you guys are the heart of the conversation, and we couldn't do this without you. And before I get to a little bit of introductions, just to give you guys kind of a picture, of what our youth are facing these days. I just want to share a little bit of facts and some things about some of the stuff that we'll be talking about going into 2025. So positive and unfortunately negative things, right? Um, so the first thing is youth mental health, because that's where all things stem from. Unfortunately, 1 in 5 youth experience a mental health condition each year. So pretty much on this call, at least one of the youth has probably experienced mental health, right? Only about half of youth with a diagnosable mental health condition actually receive the treatment they need. So that shows how detrimental this thing is that's happening with our youth right now. Same thing with bullying. Once again, in this room, you'll probably encounter a youth that has been bullied because about 1 in 5 students aged 12 to 18 report being bullied at school. And cyberbullying affects about 15% of students. So it's still pretty prevalent, actually in person. We think because of how big social media is and everything now that it's only, cyberbullying, but that is actually not true. And then about 1 in 7 high school students report misusing prescription opiates or alcohol use by the time of 13 years old. And of course, we know vaping and how much that has taken over since about 2023, kind of the pandemic era. And then just really about school in general, about 30% of youth report high levels of school related stress. We all know that's true, whether we're an adult in college, even a young adult in middle school, anything like that. So, um, once again, though, there's positive notes, right? Youth are resilient. It's very common in youth who experience challenges to recover and thrive with the right supports. Schools that implement mental health programs, they see improved academic performance and reduced absenteeism. I can't speak today. Peer support programs like we have, like Youth Move and Youth Rap and other things like that, can help increase the confidence and reduce the stigma around mental health for these youth. Um, so that's just some positive things and just some honest facts about kind of the state of youth in 2025 before heading into the new school year. Okay, well, I do believe we have our other speaker here now, so I'm going to just give them a chance to introduce themselves, tell us a little about themselves, just their name, just your first name, your age, and maybe what's your favorite snack after school.
You'll have to unmute yourself, Ayana.
Yeah, you gotta unmute yourself. And if anybody else wants to join in, feel free to come off mute, come on camera. And we do want it to be interactive, so try to use your emojis and your
my
other
favorite
things.
snack after school is probably like an apple or something.
Okay,
Such
an apple. Yeah, it's healthy. I
That's
like
healthy, right?
that. Yes.
My name's Elijah. And my favorite snack after school, I think it's a banana. I like eating bananas.
Okay.
You guys are
See,
healthy. I like Rice
where's
Krispies treats and
right? Where's the Takis
popsicles.
at?
Right.
Where's the Takis at? I thought we were team
Ice
Taki over there.
cream,
Yeah,
something
yeah,
sweet.
for sure. Awesome. Okay. Well, I know we broke the ice a little bit with that, but we will do just a little two more icebreakers to kind of get you guys in before we start the conversation. So, what TikTok or Instagram?
Personally, I like TikTok because there's more like variety throughout it, and like people can express their creativity different, like more on TikTok, I think.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. People want to call me old, but I actually still like IG, really Facebook more honestly. But you want to know a crazy fact? Even though TikTok is as popular it is, Facebook is still the most used social media site. Bet you
Yeah,
didn't know that.
I did know that.
Yeah, and I think Ayana might have.
Yeah, I think she dropped. I
Yeah,
don't
by
know what
accident.
happened. Hopefully
That's
she'll come
okay.
back.
Bonus question. What was
Yes.
TikTok before it was TikTok?
Musically.
Ooh.
Boom. Yes.
Oh, it was? I
Okay.
didn't know
See,
that.
I didn't know that either. Good to
It
know.
was
Good
bought
to
out.
know.
It was bought out by ByteDance, which is a foreign company.
Company. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, if you could swap lives with any movie/TV character, who would it be?
Personally, I would have to say Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory because he's smart and he can
Right.
build stuff, which would
Okay.
mean I'd be able to build stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, he has a lot of fun. I like that. All right. Well, we'll let Ayana get back in here, but I am going to go on to a few more of our questions. So the first thing I want to ask is if you could give yourself, your 10-year-old self, one piece of advice, what would it be?
Um, it's to tell the truth only. Only tell the truth. Don't lie because it'll just damage your relationships.
That's awesome to have that. And I know 10 seems like kind of young, but at the same time I think it's very a transformative age. You're in your double digits, you're preteen, I guess as they would call you. You're kind of first starting to get a grasp and understanding of how the world works. So I think that's awesome. Of course, it's cool to think about how much we've grown. Did you know that most teens actually say they've learned the most about themselves during those tough times, though? And I assume that's what made you share that, is because you probably had a situation that didn't end too well because you weren't telling the truth.
I've had a few.
Yeah, and that's how we learn our lessons, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes up to that, and you say about giving yourself a piece of advice, right? Who is one person in your life that you look up to?
Um, my dad. Um, because he always like I see his work ethic and like how he perseveres through like anything really. So
Yeah,
yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, so now that we've talked about that a little bit and we're getting ready to go into the school year, right? What would you say is one goal you've set for yourself for this school year, for 2025?
Um, to make to do good in my classes. And I know that sounds like a no-brainer is that's the goal for everybody, but it's because this year I'm taking a lot of like college level classes and I just want to be able to my goal is to be able to like learn a lot from it and to be able to like actually gain from it and not just go through the class and just get the good grade.
Right, going through the motions. No, that's awesome because I feel like that's another thing, youth or students struggle with, right? Is thinking they have to have these big, goals. As long as you set one clear goal and start there, you're more likely to stay motivated because you can focus on that one thing and you're not trying to overextend yourself, right? So that's awesome. Um, okay, so as far as school goes too, if you were the principal or you had to make one rule in school that's not there, what would you make?
Um, to be yourself, like, and what I mean by that is like, don't try to be someone else just to be cool or like to fit in with people.
I like that as a rule. Be yourself. Not a suggestion, but a rule. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. All right. So, speaking of that, as far as being yourself, that kind of actually leads us right into the next section of our questions, which is peer pressure, right? Can you
Mhm.
remember a time that maybe you felt peer pressured and how you handled that?
Yes. So there was a time back in eighth grade where the kids were like sneaking out and going to Chick-fil-A, and they were, like, "Oh, you should come, it'll be fine." And I just didn't want to because I knew that if I would skip class, it would affect me badly, my reputation especially, because I was uh on the side of like being a teacher's pet in eighth grade. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And that's another thing. I mean, that's great that you were able to discern that. Do you feel like you were brought up in these values or things that your family or your parents taught you?
definitely I think both my mom and my dad, they raised me to like just be like just always think about the consequences of things and what could happen if you did do something like that or if you did get peer pressured.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah, because science shows and the statistics show most teens say peer pressure is easier to handle when they've already decided their values before the situation comes up. So if you already know, what you are for, what you're not for, then it makes it a lot easier to say no. And I don't know, did you feel like that was true for you?
Um, you said, could you repeat that one more time?
So basically instilling your values, like knowing kind of who you are as far as like what you'll agree to do, what you won't agree to do when somebody does try to, I guess, pull you out of your comfort zone or get you to do something that you know is not good. You kind of already have a foundation, like you said, from your parents raising you that way and that kind of stuff. Does that make it easier to say no to the peer pressure?
Yeah, it definitely makes it easier to know your values. However, like for me, for example, I'm a very impulsive person. So even with those values, there still is the factor of peer pressure. Like it still affects me at least.
Right. Yeah, no, that's honesty, and that's good to know for sure. So, speaking of peer pressure, how have your friends, been able to assist you in that, or basically y'all help each other resist peer pressure at times?
Um, I have a friend. His name is Anthony. We so there was this trend going on, right?
Hmm.
I don't remember what it was. I just remember like the moment, but he was like, "We should do this," and I was like, "Nah, I don't think we should do that because we can get in trouble." Because it was a dangerous trend. So I was like, "Nah." And then he ended up saying like, "Oh, I don't think that's a good idea either." Like he had a second to think about it after I told him.
Yeah. Do you think that's pretty common though, or like do you try to surround yourself with obviously friends who, believe the same things you do, the same values you have?
Yeah, I attempt to. It's definitely very hard, but I try to.
I definitely, that's awesome. So especially with peer pressure, like I talked about, unfortunately youth are becoming more involved, in substance abuse and also using, e-cigarettes, things like that. Um, Even though it feels weird, sometimes, what are some messages you hear, I guess, like from your family and your friends about drugs and alcohol and like resisting them as you're getting older?
I've heard from my cousin before that it's very like addictive and it could definitely like change your life for the worse because for one, it like lowers your life expectancy by a lot, like no matter what drug it is or like what substance it is, it lowers your lifespan by a lot and it's just very addictive. So it's hard to like stop.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. So most teens today actually use substances less than past generations, which is a big positive trend, but I feel like unfortunately it gets highlighted to a point where it seems like it's more than it is. So that's definitely one thing I can say about, your generation and your the youth coming up now is they're actually not partaking as much. And I know you said that, peer pressure doesn't get easier. So do you have any like creative or smart ways to say no, like if you went to a party and somebody's offering you a drink or, something like that?
Um, Honestly, I don't, because for one, I don't go out places a lot, so I haven't been peer pressured at in like situations like that. But if I were to be peer pressured, yeah, I don't know what I would say.
Yeah.
I
No,
would
and
say
see,
no, but
yeah,
like I don't know how I would say it. It
right.
just depends on the moment.
Exactly. And that's honesty, right? You've got to, sometimes you don't know how you'll react until you are faced with that situation. So that's awesome. So obviously one smart strategy most of the time is just redirecting, like suggesting another activity, like, hey man, why don't we throw the football or let's go play some basketball, right? Something sporty, something, just
Yeah.
to kind of move the topic away. And when it comes to that, what do you sometimes wish adults understood more about, what youth face when it comes to peer pressure and things like that?
Um, I think that they should. You said what should they notice more? Is that what you
Like,
said? Like pay
like
more
what
attention.
should they understand more, like if you feel like there's something that adults maybe don't understand about youth when they're faced with these peer pressure when it comes to drugs and alcohol, or even just to speak to their children about it, or anything like that.
I feel like they should understand like for one, it's hard for someone to like not or hard for a teen not to fall to peer pressure because they most teens want to be as like cool or like just try to fit in, but
Right.
like adults don't really understand that and they just try to and then they just go once the teen has done it, they just
Mhm.
give them the consequence without sitting down and talking to them about
Yeah.
the rights and the wrongs
Right.
and like what you should be able like what that you shouldn't want to fit in, you should just want to like belong in a group of people.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's awesome because sometimes adults, I feel like, just like you said, they focus on fear messages of trying to like put fear into you, scare you, anything like that, right? But what works better is the honest conversations and the trust, and even the part that you brought up about something you would tell your 10-year-old self is to just be honest, right? Just have
Yeah.
honesty and have those conversations. So thank you for sharing that. Corey, did you have something to add?
No, not at all. I was just signing in on my laptop instead of on my phone. So no, I
Okay.
didn't have anything to add.
Yeah, well, and then like we said, just remember we do want it to be interactive. So if you guys do have any comments or anything like that, any questions, feel free to put it in the chat or come off mute. And once again, Elijah, we appreciate you for being here. Um, so we talked a little bit about bullying earlier, right? And kind of how youth still experience it. And it's not only cyberbullying as much as we think it is. It's still very much real inside the school, physical every day. So can you talk a little bit about what the difference between joking and bullying is and maybe how you differentiate those two?
Um, so it's different for a lot of people. For my like friends, there's definitely the line is very thin. Like it's hard to tell. But when you're joking, you're both going along with it, or you're all going along with the joke.
Right.
But whenever someone's bullying you or you're somebody, you're doing it over and over again, and they're telling you to like stop, or they're not liking it. Like that's
Yeah, that's bullying for sure. And like you said,
basically going along with it, and bullying, they don't like it, and you keep going on and on and on.
yeah. Yeah, so basically it's like harassment. And even if someone said this joke, if it hurts, it matters, right? Like you said, if somebody's telling you they don't like what you're saying, they don't think it's funny, they don't want to hear you, it definitely shouldn't continue. What would you say is the best ways that friends can support somebody that they know is being bullied?
Um, well, for one, it's either so there's two ways in my book. There's one, you can step up for your friend, right? Or like and defend them,
Hmm.
or you can like help remove you and your friend from the situation, so you guys can go somewhere else where the bully is not at, and
Awesome.
then from there you go and tell a trusted adult, like someone that you feel can handle the situation.
Right. No, that's awesome. You made a great point because of how we talked about earlier, right? Just redirecting the energy, just if they can get you to walk away from the situation, that's awesome. Um, because studies show and research shows that when a friend does stand up for someone being bullied, usually the bullying stops within 10 seconds. And I think a lot of youth don't understand the impact that can make, even if you just, hey, you right, you don't even have to say more than that. You just like make them know that you're there, make them know that that person is not by themselves, right?
Yeah.
So I guess if I could ask you, do you remember one time you've seen bullying yourselves online or at school, a time you actually witnessed it?
um yeah, I witnessed it a lot during middle school. um there was just like group of like kids that always thought they were like better than everybody. I don't know the word for it, but they thought they were better than everybody, and they would
Right.
just like just talk about how people were like inferior to them and stuff like that.
Mm, yeah. I know that's tough too because a lot of times people think bullying stays just at the school or just on the phone. It definitely sticks with you in your everyday life, right? So thank you for sharing that. All right. So when it comes to bullying, right, we how we talked about how serious mental health is. About 1 in 5 youth these days have a mental health experience that unfortunately they go through. So do you know what mental health or what does mental health mean to you?
um Mental health means to me is like your state of mind, like how you're doing, like on a like I'm trying not to use the word mental health, like
Right.
your how you are, like just mentally, like if you're happy, if you're sad, but it's deeper
Mhm.
than that. But that's like on the broad example thing, like your emotions basically.
Right. No, I appreciate that. And Julian actually put a question in the chat here for us. He said, "Did you have anyone that you look up to or go talk to as far as, the bullying or anything like that that you saw in school?"
um I did. I went to my counselor. Her name was Miss Berger. She retired whenever I went to high school, but yeah, she was real. We was really close. So yeah, I went and talked to
Yeah. That's awesome. So speaking of talking though, for you in your opinion, what makes it easier or harder for you to open up? Like what are some things that influence, how you're able to communicate how you feel?
her. It really just depends on, like, for me, trust, how much I trust that person. In my relationship, like if we're close or not, like I can go talk to some of my closest friends about my mental health, but like if it's someone that I just see on a day-to-day basis, I can't. It's just uncomfortable for me. And if they would try to force like, oh, what's wrong, and they ask me over and over again, that just really like makes it uncomfortable.
Yeah. No, I understand that. And a lot of things that are a lot of times youth say their biggest thing is they want to be able to talk when people just listen, right? They're not just trying to jump to solutions or trying to tell you how to do something or give you advice. Sometimes people just want to be heard. They may not want you to say anything back. Go ahead, Corey.
I was gonna say that's a huge point. I'm a mama bear, and so I used to try to solve all the problems. And it was one time when my daughter said, "Mom, I just want you to listen. I don't want you to fix it. I just want you to hear me." And so that hit home. Like I'm like, "Oh, wow. Okay. I I just thought I was supposed to fix it." So, um any other parents out there, sometimes they just want us to hear them. So that really hit home for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely a big thing. I feel like people my age, they don't usually, like you said, need, not usually, but they don't need help all the time. They just want to get it out, to just say it
Yeah,
and just hear.
Yeah.
that's
And we always want to be that sounding board where you feel comfortable coming to talk to us. So that was a lesson for me, but I'm thankful for it.
yeah, for sure. Um, I know you said that you were definitely able to connect with your counselor, but what do you think is one way that your school or your community overall can make it safer and more inviting for youth to be able to talk about their mental health?
Um, I feel like they like I'm not really sure. I think they can like help give encouragement to go to someone like your counselor like in high school,
Mm-hmm.
talk about that, or you can like you can go to your counselor and go from there. Like
Right.
that's what I but
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's perfect because you align with honestly what all youth say. They just want to see more encouragement for it, more advertisement that it's actually available, more support for it. So, um, and studies have shown that schools that normalize mental health talks and resources and things like that, they see better grades, attendance, and just overall well-being for the students and the staff. So that's definitely a big deal. Um, so moving on, and we've talked about this a little bit, right? As far as being supported by your parents, can you name something one of your parents did or your parents did that have made you feel supported, or that they still do, maybe?
My parents, there was one time like mental health was like really I was struggling, and we sat down and we had a conversation, and we talked about what we can do to further like help improve your mental health, improve my mental health, and how like what steps we need to take, like to get a therapist, or if you just need someone to talk to more like us. But yeah, that's what they said.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I know that can feel good. And not everybody, unfortunately, has parents like that, so that's awesome. Um,
I have a
and
question. When that
go ahead.
happened for you, did you approach your parents or did your parents approach you?
My parents approached me because they saw that I started to like change in a way. Like
Yeah.
I was as social as I usually am, or like I would just sit in my room and just do
Mhm.
nothing. So yeah, they definitely noticed that and they approached me.
Do you feel safe enough or confident enough, I guess you should say, to go to them if you need help now that that has happened for you? Now you feel like, hey, I need help. Do you feel like you can raise your hand and go say, I need help?
Yeah, I do now, but when I was younger, I was definitely like scared too.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Awesome, thank you, Leah. Yeah, that's definitely great advice. So speaking of that, like I said, you have great parents behind you, right? So that's been a great support and a tool for you. But what are some other tools? Maybe like your go-to way to calm yourself down if you feel like your emotions are all over the place or you're upset or anything like that.
I definitely I listen to music, as one of them. And also I'll play video games, because it helps me get not necessarily my mind off but it helps me like have time to think about like why I'm feeling that way
Right.
and how if it's really necessary the way I am.
I like that word, necessary. Is it necessary to feel this way? Because I don't think a lot of people look at it like that, right? And like you said, you have different coping tools such as music and gaming, and other people may like to, journal, work out, right? Whatever. But you just got to find something that helps you because if you're not doing anything, you're not helping anybody, including yourself, right? I know you just said gaming, anything like that. Do you have any other apps or like that you use on your phone or maybe activities that you do that help boost, just your morale, make you happy, anything like that?
Um, the activities that I do, I like playing my drums. It definitely helps me, just get my emotions out and just like you said, boost my morale. But yeah.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah, I wish I could play musical instruments. I cannot. That's awesome though. And I know you said you gave yourself one piece of advice, right? But what would you give one piece of advice to younger teens now, if you could?
Um, I would say don't try, just be yourself. Because if you try to fit in and be someone else, it's definitely gonna affect your mental health because you're not gonna know who you actually are. Eventually, you're just gonna have these different personalities for different groups of people, and it's just gonna create disassociation with like your community.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's so true. So now that we've been able to just talk a little bit about, your community, your tools that you use and things like that, let's talk about school a little bit, right? What do you enjoy the most about school? And I know that might be a loaded question, but
Uh,
and you can be honest.
what do I enjoy most about school?
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy the beginning of school whenever I'm not in class because no, listen, no, like I'm already at school, but it's like we have this like period,
Hmm.
like not period, but like we have this time from where you get into the school and whenever you
Right.
go to your first period. I like that period because it helps me like catch up with my friends and stuff.
Right. See, no, I like that. Yeah, I used to love that too. Um, and I know you talked about, one rule you would add in. So what would maybe one thing you could change or take away from school as like a rule or anything like that?
Um, the no phone rule. They just passed a law where you couldn't use any. I'm fine with homework. I'm fine with homework. I like homework, but I'm not gonna say I love homework, but I'm fine with it. But the
Right.
no phone rule is because like you won't be able to use it at all, like not even at lunch now, because they
Mm.
just law. So
Yeah, and with that, I mean, obviously we understand kind of why they want to do it, but do you feel like it's gonna have more of a negative or positive impact?
in terms of the students doing their work authentically, I feel like it's gonna have a positive impact.
Right.
But like in terms of their like how they feel like emotionally, it's gonna have a negative impact, I feel like.
Right. Okay.
So,
I
at least at the
understand.
beginning.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just like with everything else, right? It'll take time to get used to, and unfortunately, but thank you for sharing that. Um, so I know that you go like to a traditional high school, right? And I went, oh, go ahead, Leah, before I go into it.
I seen this thing that a teacher did the other day on social media, but she put up her whiteboard and she had the students come up every time they got a notification on their phone. And she separated it into like email, social media, text messages, phone calls. And so every time anybody got something, they went up there and put a tally mark. And the whole entire board was just like filled with all these tally marks. And it's insane how many times you actually get interrupted by just notifications on your phone, children and adults too. My phone goes off constantly all day long. And
Right.
so I could definitely see the distraction, but it was interesting for her to do that with her students through the whole period.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Um, I will say, another thing that's unfortunate though, I guess that I've learned too is actually schools are not allowed to have, and this might be just for the younger schools, not allowed to have classroom libraries anymore, So that's going to be interesting because if you're taking away phones, you're taking away books. I'm not really sure what's left, but um, there will be books, but they're being closely monitored. So that's just another unfortunate thing. But as I was kind of leading into that though, and that's what I was going to say, I know you go to a little more of a traditional high school. Is there a way that you would redesign your classes? And I say that in because like what an early college is and the middle college and all that and kind of how they run their schools. What would be one way you would try to redesign your classes to make them maybe more interactive and supportive for the students?
Um, Honestly, I don't personally. I don't have a problem with how my classes are right now. But
Hmm.
if I had to change it, I would probably um add homeroom in there more often because for my school we only have it a few times a year.
Mm.
So I would there more often just to be able to get to know more people and be more social.
Hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. I like that because that's what I would say. I never thought about it that way, but yes, with like the early colleges and the middle colleges, they do a lot of stuff to try to make sure the youth are actually peers and they're not all just kind of rummaging through life next to each other, right? So I definitely agree
Yeah.
with that. So my last question for you is, what is the hardest part about balancing school and life? What has that been for you?
Well, last year I had a I had a rude awakening because I, I was on track for the second semester and I did marching band for the first semester, and it's definitely like difficult just with those two, like work and then practicing at home and all that stuff, but also implementing like way like you need to be social with your family as well and like present with your family, and it was definitely just difficult for me last year. But throughout the summer, I've definitely like learned like how to be more present, and I feel like I'll do better job at balancing schoolwork, school, and outside of school. Like,
Okay. Yeah. So is that something you personally wanted to just get better at? Or is that something that somebody, maybe your parents, talk to you about? Or
well, my parents talked to me about being more present, but I've definitely thought more about like how how I've needed to like balance everything better.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So a little bit of both. That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, like you said too, I mean, most students say, sleep is their biggest challenge. Over 70% of high schoolers reported they didn't get enough sleep. And I'm not a high schooler, but I don't get enough sleep either. So I don't blame them. I don't blame them.
Yeah.
But
I I feel like high schoolers they think uh they need to go to sleep or they feel like they can just go to sleep later and get the same sleep, but it's really like important the good amount of sleep. Like I go to sleep from 8:30 to 9:30 because I need at least 8 to 9 hours of sleep to be able to function properly.
yeah,
So, and I wake up at 5. So,
right.
yeah.
Well, that's good to know because a lot of youth don't understand how important sleep is to their everyday life. So that's awesome. Go ahead, Corey.
I was going to ask your opinion on something, and I don't know. Um, this is something that I've always wondered. I came from a family where we're very athletic. Um, and so I guess my tribe was always around sports or something to do with sports.
Mhm.
What would you say to an individual that is really not into sports or extra or activities? How would you suggest that they find their tribe? How do you don't want to try to fit in, but what would you tell to somebody like if they just moved there or something, if they don't have a lot of friends, how would you suggest that they find their people?
Um, so personally, I would say since I'm more of a social person, I would probably introduce myself to them first, right? If they had just moved there, and then I would go from there to introduce them to other people. depending on, because I feel like I'm at like telling like how like people's personalities before I get to know them. So I would introduce them to a group of people that I feel like they would get along with, and then it would go from there. And I would talk to them every other day, and just see how it's going. Because I actually had to do that. There was a girl, her name was Julie, and she had just moved from like South Carolina to Charlotte, and she had no friends there, so I helped introduce her to everybody.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very cool. Well, if anybody else has any questions or comments or anything like that, now would be the time. And while you guys are coming up with that, I just once again want to say thank you so much, Elijah. I think Ayana just had something happen, with her phone or something. So unfortunately, she was not able to come back. But we do appreciate you, Elijah, and everything you had to share. And, just ask that you continue to take the energy that you had today into school this year and into the spaces with your friends and peers and other things like that. So, like I said, if anybody has anything, you're welcome to come off mute, put it in the chat, any of that.
Thank you, Elijah. We appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
You did an awesome
I
job.
can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Yeah.
I want you to. I want to know what you think about where you see teen mental health evolving over the next 5 years through from the time where you are now. I would say the next 6 years to the time that you graduate college. Where do you see teen mental health evolving? Teen or I'll say young adult mental health evolving to?
I would say
Awareness, my fault. Awareness, mental health awareness.
I would say it. So right now, in the past 5 years, it's definitely involved a lot more. So in the next 5 to 6 years, like be more more noticed, and that people will be able to know like they're they'll be aware of it more, and they'll be able to know what they can do, like help it or to maintain their good mental health.
Yeah. Awesome.
I have a question that might be weird, so y'all don't laugh at me if it is, okay? So I know you said that you play the game, and I am not a gamer, so just know that before I ask this question. But I know you guys get on the online communities and you guys like talk to each other on the game. Do you guys talk about mental health like in those rooms and games and stuff? Like, does it ever come up?
So not if you're like playing with just a random person, like because you can play with like a lobby. It's called. It's just
Mm-hmm.
random people queued together. Um, you wouldn't. People don't normally talk about that in like just random lobbies. However, like if you already have friends,
Mm-hmm.
you can, and most people, not most people, but I personally have talked about to my friends and my cousins about it
Yeah.
while we're playing the game. So.
Yeah, I was just curious if it was like a thing, like, you get on there and you're like, I'm struggling with my mental
Oh,
health, blah, blah, like if people talk.
well, yeah, some people do like, but it's not usually teens. It's usually young adults.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Awesome.
Maybe that's a market we need to tap into there. We need to get you teens talking about this stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they may not say I'm struggling with my mental health, but they might say, man, I am stressed out. Oh my gosh, this is happening and da 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 da. It may not be my mental health. I'm struggling in my mental health. It may not
Right.
be, man, it could be like I'm starving. I ain't had no food, and it can come in different forms. It doesn't have to say my mental health is this, or I mean, we talk about it all the time. We say, you know how can we talk about, fixing this problem or fixing that problem, but my lights is get ready to get cut off, or you know what I'm saying? Like we have to be able to kind of read between the lines or read the room. I'm not great at that, but just saying, there may be ways, or there may be signs that people are saying, you know, I'm struggling or I'm stressing, without
Yeah.
saying my mental health is, check me out, or check in with me because my mental health is not where it needs to be. So I think that should be a lesson for everyone, is to remember and not think about it just from your terms, but think about it from the next person's terms. When they say, man, I'm stressed out, like, check in on them. Are they just using that as slang, or are they really stressing out? So,
Yeah.
I know a sure tell sign for me is sleep. So like when I'm not okay, I'm not sleeping properly at all, and I can stay up for a long time. And so that's another thing too to look out for, is like how people are sleeping.
For
Yeah.
sure. And I
Hmm.
think having experience in the gaming spaces too, like you said, a lot of ways it doesn't come out as that. And I want to highlight what Heather put in the chat as well. I'm crashing out, right?
Yeah.
A young teen. But yeah, most of the time, like even just saying, oh, I had football practice was hard, or coach was hard on me today, or like I hate this math homework. I don't know, I'm not too good at math. It doesn't always have to be, like you said before, Elijah, so deep, right? It can just be something as simple as having a rough day that somebody may talk about. And Jadrian, go ahead, please.
Yes, I joined a little late, so I'm just kind of catching on to the topic. But I think there were some really good points called out. I think the overconsumption of anything is evidence of something not being in a great or settled or peaceful space. So the overconsumption of food, the overconsumption of devices, drugs, anything of that nature. That may look different with kids, but I think the overconsumption of, as someone mentioned, sleep, anything where a person is becoming or feeling more safe to do this very one thing, um, in an obsessive way, a lot of the times it becomes their safe haven or their safe space. And so I think just paying attention to those type of signs, because it does look different on everybody. It could be anger on one person. It could be sadness on another. It could be food for another. And so the picture of what that looks like, lack of health in the mental space, is very different, and it comes out very differently than just the words mental health. And many times, especially in the younger kids, they don't have proper verbiage to express it. And so you have to look for the signs outside of someone even saying I'm stressed at, like, you know, my wife has noticed little things about me when I'm working and I'm stressed. I tend to twist my hair in the front. Not something I ever paid attention to, but it's the small details where you notice things like getting up under this person's skin, something is causing them to be a bit disheveled, um, and things of that nature.
Yeah,
Definitely.
that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And that's true. I stick my tongue out like when I'm trying to focus, and I really try not to, but it's I can't stop it. I don't know how to stop it. So go ahead, Corey.
what would you suggest, Elijah? I had this situation one time, and my daughter had a friend, and they were going through some stress. They were going through some times, and had even talked about committing suicide. And it was very, very, she was very bothered. And um as a mom, like I said earlier, I wanted to fix it. I wanted to fix it. I didn't want her to feel that pain. I didn't want the young person to feel that pain. Um, but as a mom, I just wanted to go to that person and help them and bypass my child because my child didn't want me to say anything to him. And so, as a parent, it's kind of scary. But can you help me in a situation? Now, it doesn't have to be that hard, but in a situation similar, say your friend comes to you and say he's frustrated and he's worried about something. Let's say his parents got into a fight and he was upset with you. I mean, he was upset with his parents. And he
Mhm.
came to you, but he said, I don't know what to do, but I didn't like that. I didn't like how that made me feel. You as his best friend, you know, what would you do? How would you help him, or what would you suggest?
Well, okay, hold on. I personally I have experienced this similar situation.
You've
Um,
experienced a lot.
no, no, and like
No, I'm
remember
thankful.
earlier,
You've experienced a
um,
lot. Go ahead.
so I had this friend whose parents argued a lot and had a lot of bad history
Hmm.
from what I've seen and
Hmm.
heard from him. So I asked my parents if it was okay for him to stay over the night for a few nights, and we talked about it once he came over, and we talked about like what's wrong and like, well, me and him talked about like what's wrong and like if there's anything that I could do to help him, or if like he needs somewhere, like if he wants to come over here, he can come over here anytime. That's what my parents told him. So we gave him sort of like a safe haven, like
Right.
if he felt that way. But
Did you
that's
did
my
you talk to your parents about what was going on with him and his situation?
yeah. It's by at this point we had already been like friends for like 2 3 years, so
Yeah.
I felt like we were close enough, like for me to reassure that. But I asked him first
Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
should, yeah,
Yeah, that's
Yes.
awesome.
Sometimes it gets hard and it gets cloudy because you don't want to betray your friend. You want to be, you want to. So I can imagine that was hard, and it was hard for me as a mom. Like, I wanted to fix it, but I also wanted to, I wanted to honor what my daughter said. I ended up just praying about it because I was like, I just didn't want to make the wrong decision. So and it did work out, but yeah.
be, yeah, because if you make the it's like if you go and you step and you try like as a parent and you try to like go and help your child or other teen, that could end up leading into like a a damaged friendship between them because that friend is trust with your daughter. So
Yeah.
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 That's very true. That's
It
very
is.
true.
Make very good points. Well, guys, I appreciate everyone, but it is 4:57, so I know it's a Friday. I don't want to hold anybody's time too much. If there's any last questions or comments or anything like that, please get them in now. And we will share the webinar, and we will also attach just some resources. So the information for our youth groups, information just for some tools and some apps and some things for parents and students as well.
Cameron, I just want to say, Elijah, when I said you've gone through a lot, I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm just saying
Yeah.
I would have never known. We've talked about a lot of things on this conversation, and I would have never known that you've had to deal with so much. But
Mhm.
I mean, to look at you, I mean, you handle things great. You are wow. I don't
Yeah.
know that I would have been able to handle things as you have when I was your age. So that really speaks to the young man that you are, the strong parenting that you know they put this they instill a lot in you, and I'm proud of you, and the young man that you are becoming. Keep being that individual that trusts yourself as an individual. You're enough. You're more than enough. So thank you so much for being here today. Awesome
Yes.
Yes.
job.
Thank you.
Well,
All right, you guys have a nice day.
All right. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Uh,
Thank you.
Bye. Great forum.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Good job.
All right, I'm gonna end it now.